Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Let's get to the news in detail. The Environmental Protection Agency announced yesterday that it approved the environmental authorization for the $10 billion Yellowtail development project. The environmental permit was granted for a period of 5 years to ExxonMobil's subsidiary and operator of the Stabroek Block, Esso, to undertake the requisite construction and operation of production facilities. On the matter of flaring, the permit strictly prohibits routine flaring and venting and specifies that it is only permissible during commissioning, startup, and special circumstances. The permit also goes further to maintain payments in instances where flaring is conducted beyond permitted durations. Esso would have to pay $4 to $5 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, which it is permitted to flare. Importantly, the permit also ensures that Esso is held liable for all costs associated with cleanup, restoration, and compensation for any pollution damage, which may occur as a consequence of the project. Esso is also required to have financial assurance, which includes a combination of insurance which must cover well control and/or cleanup and third-party liability on terms that are market standard for the type of coverage. Meanwhile, Esso has filed a response in the court, essentially contending that Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal has overstepped his boundaries as a private citizen in his effort to legally challenge the government to ensure that the oil companies pay their fair share of taxes. The oil company has instead charged the Attorney General with the responsibility for filing a civil action in the interest of the public. The company claimed it has no knowledge of the allegations contained in Lal's application. The oil company explained that based on the advice of its attorneys, Lal as a private person is not entitled to seek the declaratory reliefs in order to prevent what are alleged public wrongs or to assert a right on behalf of the public in proceedings which are not for judicial review and are brought in the regular jurisdiction of the court. And moving on, Natural Resources Minister Vikram Bharat disclosed yesterday that the government of Guyana and Esso signed the petroleum production license for ExxonMobil's fourth project called Yellowtail, which will cost $10 billion. It is important to note that this cost is recoverable by Esso. Bharat said the company in the Stabroek Block is expected to produce up to 250,000 barrels of oil per day after startup in late 2025 using the One Guyana FPSO vessel. He said the $10 billion development project will target an estimated resource base of about 900 million oil equivalent barrels, while adding that this is now the largest single investment in the history of Guyana. And in other news, the EPA's approval of the Yellowtail development project, which is being undertaken by Esso, has come on as no surprise. That should be as no surprise. President for Transparency Institute Guyana, Inc., Frederick Collins, has stated. The head of the civil society body in a preliminary reaction to EPA's announcement yesterday has described the move as coinciding with the government's actions of belittling the law and not allowing state agencies to act independently. Collins added that the government appears to dance to the tune of any interest but the people's. Collins made his statements based on inconsistencies that occurred with existing oil wells, Liza 1, 2, and Payara. As it stands, Guyana has been unable to achieve assurances for full liability insurance coverage for the 3 existing wells in the unfortunate case of an oil spill or other environmental disaster. Guyana has also been unable to ensure that it is positioned to audit ExxonMobil's books to ensure that the billions of US dollars it claims to have spent to develop oil wells in the Stabroek Block have not been padded. And moving on. One of the 6 contractors vying to construct a pump station at Canal Number 1 on the west bank of Demerara, which is estimated to cost some $649.8 million, has bid $50 million lower than the engineer's price to do the job. The procuring entity for this project is the Ministry of Agriculture's National Drainage and Irrigation Authority. It was revealed that Platinum Investments Inc., Samaru Investment, Well-Built Construction Service, Yunus Civil and Building Construction Service, Rupan Ramatari Investment, and VR Construction have placed bids for the contract. While 5 contractors have placed bids ranging from $639 to $896 million, it was Platinum Investments, Inc. that bid the lowest at $599 million to execute the construction of the pump station. It should be noted that this project forms part of the $13 billion that was allotted in the budget this year to upgrade drainage and irrigation systems across the country. And now let's tell you police, are probing a case where a 6 to 9-year-old truck driver was attacked and strangled at his work site, BK Quarries, located at the Mazarun River in Region 7. And continuing, police believe that he was killed after 18 hours that evening and then dumped into the river. The dead man was identified as Pitamber Sharma of Independent Street, Lagrange, West Bank, Demerara. According to police, Sharma was employed as a truck driver at BK Quarries. His remains were found floating in the river around 7 hours 30, close to the company's security base. The autopsy revealed that he was manually strangled. This means that whoever might have strangled him then decided to get rid of his remains by dumping his body into the river. Region 7 investigators are now seeking leads in identifying a suspect in the truck driver's murder. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 12 in Guyana. We will resume after the break.
Nothing in life is free, but the MyDigiCell app is. You don't need to be on a data plan to use the app. You can conveniently chat with Ruby or an agent for help. Check your account balance, activate a Prime bundle, or gift it to a friend. Send credit. Check the Georgetown and Burpees Bridge schedules. Activate a roaming plan. Play Shake to Win for cool prizes. So don't worry about a data plan, buddy. Download the MyDigiCell app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store today. Digicel, better together.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Even though the government has provided its blessings for ExxonMobil to move ahead with its $10 billion Yellowtail project, head of the EPA Kemraj Parasram has assured that the regulatory body is still working to secure a mix of financial assurance to cover the entire oil-rich Stabroek block. In terms of the oil and gas sector, Parasram explained that there are various forms of financial assurance, while adding that the first form already in the proverbial bag is self-insurance. He said based on a company's financial rating and their liquidity, it is typical across the globe that self-insurance is accepted as a form of financial assurance. Parasram said regulators can also require insurance similar to an insurance policy, which was taken out by Esso, the operator of the Stabroek block. Meanwhile, the Guyana Workers' Union is gearing up for intensified protest action if the government does not show compassion to its citizens and render them much-needed assistance to resist hardships associated with heightening cost of living. The union, in a show of dissatisfaction, held another protest outside Parliament building yesterday and has further increased calls for assistance to the public. GWU's President Norris Witter said that given the ever-increasing cost of living and the excruciating pain that is being felt by the elderly, in addition to demands made during their last protest, the union is now demanding a review of the old age pension and the NIS pension. In addition to that, Witter said that the union is also calling for the review of public assistance. He said that having commenced their picketing exercise last week, the union felt that it had given adequate time for the state to show some type of sympathetic response toward citizens. And now let's tell you, a man yesterday showed up at the Georgetown Magistrates Court in company of a lawyer to take the rap for 5 suspects who were busted on Tuesday last with more than $12.5 million worth in cocaine and ecstasy at a house located in Prashad Nagar, Georgetown. Unfortunately, his attempt to convince the magistrate presiding over the matter, Shirley Isaacs Marcus, that he owned the drugs proved futile after his claims were rejected in court. Head of KANU, James Singh, said that the man is presently in custody and being investigated by KANU ranks to see if his story checks out. The magistrate then went ahead and charged 5 defendants: 62-year-old Lena Narayan, 60-year-old James Herbert, 71-year-old K. Jennifer Butcher, 27-year-old Jamal Narayan, and 47-year-old Gregory Faria, a Surinamis with the possession of illegal substances for the purpose of trafficking. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges and were granted $500,000 bail each. And moving on. USA Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, is of the firm conviction that Guyana has a golden opportunity before it to use its oil earnings to transform the lives of the citizenry. The ambassador noted, however, such meaningful change can occur if Guyana channels its revenue into the avenue of diversification, the oil revenue, that is. She said taking such an approach would ensure the country avoids the dreaded Dutch disease, which describes an economic phenomenon where the rapid development of one sector of the economy precipitates a decline in the other sectors. To ensure economic diversification is realized, the envoy said it is necessary that means and ways are available for manufacturers, agricultural investors, and persons in other sectors. And now let's tell you, the Ministry of Health on Friday reported that there are still 4 patients in the COVID-19 ICU. According to its daily reporting, 5 new cases were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 63,258. 8 persons are in institutional isolation, 11 are quarantined institutionally, and 66 are in home isolation. Additionally, within the last 24 hours, 5 persons have recovered from the virus, bringing the total number of confirmed cases, that should be recovery cases, to 61,954. And now we wrap things up with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News, dedicated to being blunt. Every citizen has a right to stand up to their leaders when they see injustices being committed on their fellow brothers and sisters. It is therefore understandable that when oil contracts are awarded with massive loopholes for abuse and revenue leakage and provisions that infringe on our nation's sovereignty, citizens have a right to challenge them. It is the birthright of every Guyanese to defend his or her country when the leaders fail in such circumstances. Guided by this philosophy, Kaieteur News will remain unceasing in its fight to defend the rights of current and future generations of this beautiful land, to be given their fair share for their exploitation and their natural resources. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on